They say the courtroom is a temple of justice. To me, on that hot July morning, it felt more like a circus, and the judge was the ringmaster. Judge Halverson's gavel cracked like a rifle shot. Order! Now, young lady, would you kindly stop wasting this court's time and take a seat where you belong? A low wave of chuckles rolled through the gallery. Some snorted. One man coughed in a way that sounded suspiciously like a laugh. He was talking to me. To everyone here, I was just some black teenage girl sitting at the defense table in a secondhand blazer, my hair pulled back tight, my expression calm. They didn't know my pulse was drumming like a war beat in my ears. Your Honor, I said evenly, with respect, I am where I belong. That made the laughter grow louder. Halverson smirked, leaning back in his oversized leather chair. His silver hair gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Really? Because last I checked, you're not on the list of counsel of record. You're, he peered at a file, just here for moral support, family member, friend? I let the silence stretch just enough to make it uncomfortable. Something like that. The prosecutor, a sharp-faced man named Keller, grinned. To him, I was no threat. That was fine. That was the plan. Because if there's one thing I learned in my years as an attorney, it's that people don't guard themselves against someone they've already decided can't hurt them. The case was State versus Darnell Ross. Darnell was 23. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong skin color, which in this city was enough to put you in handcuffs. The charge, armed robbery of a liquor store. The evidence, a grainy security video, and the testimony of a convenience store clerk who'd seen a tall black male in a hoodie. That was it. No fingerprints, no DNA, no money recovered. And still, the DA was pushing for 15 years. I sat at the defense table because the court-appointed lawyer, a harried man juggling 10 other cases, had given up before the trial even started. I wasn't supposed to be here. Not like this. Not under this name. From the gallery's perspective, I was Darnell's teenage cousin who liked watching courtroom shows and wanted to see the trial. From the judge's perspective, I was a distraction. From my perspective, I was exactly where I needed to be. It started small. When the prosecution entered Exhibit A, the liquor store's security video, I stood. The judge raised an eyebrow. Your Honor, I said, may I approach? Keller looked annoyed. Objection, she's not. Halverson waved a dismissive hand. I'll allow her to speak briefly, but make it quick. I stepped to the screen where the video played in jerky black and white. Could you pause at timestamp 001432? Keller sighed dramatically but did it. Now could you zoom in here? I pointed to a blurry reflection in the store's glass door. The jurors leaned forward. That, I said softly, is the security guard. You can see his reflection holding the door, which means the robber wasn't alone in the frame, which also means, I turned back to the judge. The height estimate from the clerk is unreliable because the angle was obstructed. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Keller shifted uncomfortably. That's speculative. No, Mr. Keller, I said. That's reasonable doubt. The judge frowned but said nothing. First blood. 5 years ago, I was on the fast track at one of the most prestigious law firms in New York. Suits tailored to perfection, glass offices overlooking the skyline. I was the youngest black woman in the firm's history to make senior associate. Then came the Turner case. A teenager accused of killing a store clerk. The evidence was shaky, but the public was thirsty for a conviction. The DA wanted blood. My job was to defend him. I failed. Not because the evidence proved his guilt. It didn't. I failed because the judge dismissed my motions. The jury believed the DA's theatrics, and I didn't see the dirty politics until it was too late. He was sentenced to life without parole. 2 years later, DNA proved he was innocent, but by then, it was too late to give him his life back. I left law, changed my name, disappeared, until a mutual friend begged me to look at Darnell's case. One glance at the file, and I knew. This was Turner all over again. By day 3 of the trial, I'd asked just enough sharp, well-placed questions to get under Keller's skin without making Halverson throw me out. During cross-examination of the store clerk, I asked about lighting conditions, whether he wore his prescription glasses that night, he hadn't, and how far away he was from the suspect. He stumbled over his answers. The jurors took notes. Halverson scowled at me more often now. He didn't like me undermining his favorite prosecutor, but every time Keller tried to object, I'd tilt my head innocently, as if I didn't know the rules, and Halverson would begrudgingly let me continue. The tension was building. I could feel it. The gallery was starting to whisper. Day 5. The state's star witness, a man named Carl Jennings. Carl claimed he saw Darnell running from the store with a bag of cash. On paper, he was credible. No record, steady job, lived 2 blocks away. On the stand, he looked confident, too confident. Keller guided him through his story. It was neat, rehearsed. Then it was my turn. Mr. Jennings, I began, how long have you lived at your current address? 8 years, he said. And you work nights? Yep. So on the night in question, you were, what? Coming home from work? He nodded. I smiled slightly. Funny, because your employer's time card system shows you clocked out at 7:12 p.m. The robbery was at 11:08 p.m. That's a 4-hour gap. Care to explain where you were? Keller jumped up. Objection? Overruled, Halverson said reluctantly. Answer the question. Carl shifted in his seat. I, went to a friend's place. I stepped closer. A friend's place? Or the police station? Gasps from the gallery. Carl's jaw tightened. See, I continued. Records show you were picked up for loitering that night, but released without charges after speaking with Detective Mason. And it just so happens Detective Mason is the lead investigator in this case. Carl's eyes darted toward Keller. That was the crack I needed. Keller slammed his file shut. This is outrageous. She's not even a licensed attorney. Halverson seized the moment. Exactly. Miss, whatever your name is, I've been patient, but this charade ends now. You will leave my courtroom immediately. I took a breath. My heart was a hammer in my chest. This was the risk. If I did this, there was no going back. I reached into my bag and pulled out a worn leather folio. Inside, my bar card, the one I'd sworn I'd never use again. Your Honor, I said, stepping forward, my name is Avery Sinclair, New York State Bar number 4, 21876, former senior associate at Keating, Wallace & Drew. I am a licensed attorney in good standing, and I am here to defend my client. Silence. Even the air conditioner seemed to pause. Halverson's face drained of color. Keller's mouth opened, then closed again. The jurors stared at me as if seeing me for the first time, and then I went in for the kill. Mr. Jennings, I said, isn't it true Detective Mason told you you could avoid charges if you testified against Darnell Ross? Carl's hands clenched. Sweat dotted his forehead. I don't remember. Do you remember signing this? I held up a photocopy of an informal cooperation agreement. He swallowed hard. Maybe. I turned to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecution's star witness didn't come forward out of civic duty. He came forward because he was given a deal. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they returned, the foreman's voice was steady. Not guilty. Darnell's mother sobbed into his shoulder. Darnell gripped my hand so tightly it hurt. I should have felt triumphant, but as I stood there watching Keller avoid my gaze and Halverson shuffle his papers, I knew this wasn't over. Men like Keller and Halverson didn't forget humiliation, and people like me, women who broke their rules, didn't get to stay in the light for long. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted my name. Cameras flashed. I slipped through a side door into the alley, disappearing into the summer heat. Justice had been served today. That was enough. For now.